Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest Top 5 episode, the show where I give the top 5 in some particular topic in progressive rock or related genres. And basically it's a topic either generated by me or my wife, or something that I come across in the YouTube world by one of my friends who do similar videos to me. In this case, it's a topic that I saw from Notes Reviews on their channel, so check out their channel. I'll put a link to their video in the description, but basically the topic is best late career prog albums. I thought it would be interesting to talk about albums that are coming out well after a band is considered to be past their prime, so to speak. 20 plus years after their debut is basically what the metric I was looking at was. So basically what I did is took a bunch of more modern albums from these classic artists and bands, looked at their debut records, and subtracted the time between them. And I'm going to order this basically from least amount of time since their debut to most amount of time. So it's going to be lengthier and lengthier as we go along in the list. And really I'm giving a top 5 here, but you can consider 10 through 6 kind of the honorable mentions part, and then I'll give the top 5. And these are just records that I really love. And in some cases, I'm focusing on records that I think are really great. Even though they may have come out with records after this record, I'm focusing more on the record that I think is actually really stellar. Because that's really what I'm trying to get at here, is these are just excellent albums in their own right. And I want to spotlight albums that I think are brilliant, that happen to be from artists who have been out 30 plus years. And to me, it's remarkable to see a band come out with some of their best material 30 plus years after the start of their career. So the first one that I have on my list is IQ. I really like their album, The Road of Bones from 2014. I think it's one of the best IQ records. It's moody, it's dark, it's brilliant, has that neo-prog vibe. It's basically a double disc. It kind of has a first disc and then a second disc of kind of bonus tracks, but they're just as good as the main album, and it's just an excellent selection. Their first album was Tales from the Lush Attic from 1983, so if you subtract 2014's Road of Bones from 1983, that's 31 years later that they're coming out with what I think is one of their strongest albums. Now, you could also argue The Resistance, which came out even later than The Road of Bones in 2019, is also a good record. It didn't connect with me quite as much as The Road of Bones. That's why I didn't put it as the official choice. But that was 36 years into their career that they came out with The Resistance. It sounds like they're working on a new record now, which could be a really good record that's 40 years into their career. Really exciting and cool to see that the band's still chugging along, even though they've been around for so long. Number 9, I'm including Yes, and their album Magnification from 2001. This has always been one of my favorite Yes albums. I love the orchestration. I think it's one of the last great Yes albums, if I'm being particularly honest about it. And they've come out with really good stuff since. I would never knock some of their later albums, but to me this is just in line with some of their best material. That's why I chose it for the list. And it came out 32 years after their self-titled debut from 1969. But they did come out with Fly From Here, which a lot of people love as well, which is 42 years into their career when that came out in 2011. And their most recent album that came out last year, right, is Mirror to the Sky, which is 54 years into their career. Just an amazing achievement by the group to still be around 53 years later. Really cool. But to me, the last great album, even though those are good albums, is Magnification, which I just really enjoy and really love. The Ladder as well is a fantastic record from 99, which is 30 years from their debut. But for me, for this list purpose, I would put Yes, Magnification as my choice. Number 8, I have Pendragon's Love Over Fear, which came out in 2020. Another excellent neo-prog band whose first album came out in 1985, which is actually the year I was born, in fact. So Love Over Fear came out 35 years later into their career. Fantastic record, showcasing a bit more of a classic sound to them. I feel like some of their more recent records before this one were leaning into a more heavier direction, almost flirting with progressive metal at times. But this one kind of takes them back to their roots and has a bit more of a lighter feel, more acoustic, just beautiful guitar work. Fantastic record. That was actually my favorite record of 2020. And to think that it's from a band that has been around for 35 years, I think that's pretty remarkable, coming out with what I consider to be one of their best works. Rush and their album Clockwork Angels is kind of a shoo-in for a list like this, which came out in 2012. The original Rush album came out in 74, so that's 38 years between them. A remarkable achievement, and great that they ended on a high note. A classic record, their only true concept record, in fact. I think it could be considered a little bit long. There's certain tracks in the middle that I feel could drag a little bit. I'm not as high on this as I think the general public is, but considering the circumstances and that this was their final record and they still had this much energy and creativity in the band, and it ends with the fantastic The Garden, which is just a fantastic closing track and a great way to close their career, in fact. I think it's well worthy of a list like this. So definitely an incredible album by the band, and great to see them doing it later in their career. Number 6, I have Marillion and their latest album, An Hour Before It's Dark, from 2022. Considering Script for a Jester's Tear came out in 1983, this is 39 years later in their career. And of course, they've gone through lineup changes like many of these groups. You know, a lot of them aren't quite the same configuration as what they began as, but still a remarkable achievement for their career that they come out with something so solid. An Hour Before It's Dark. I actually thought about choosing Marbles from 2004, because that's maybe my favorite record of theirs. But that's only 21 years into their career, so I thought it was much more remarkable to see An Hour Before It's Dark 39 years later, which I think is an excellent album from them. Showcases their ability to dive into modern topics, but do it in an artful way, and it's just a beautiful record. All right, so getting into our top 5 here. At number 5, I have Peter Gabriel's recent album, I.O., from 2023. His first album, One, or aka Car album, came out in 1977, so that's a difference of 46 years into Peter Gabriel's career, and I think I.O. is an excellent album, one of his strongest solo works. Just showcases everything that's great about him, some great pop sensibilities, but some artfulness, some really thoughtful lyrics, just a really pleasant album to listen to all the way through. And I'm not even a massive fan of his solo career, to be honest, but I thought this was just an excellent capper on what's been an excellent career from him, and we'll see if there's more to come. I'm not saying that I'm closing the books on any of these artists, but it's a fantastic album. If it does end up being his send-off, it's a great one. Just a beautiful record and well worthy of this list. Number 4, I have Kansas and their album The Absence of Presence from 2020. Absolutely adore this record. I thought it brought a new freshness to the group that was well needed. Fantastic to bring in some young talent to kind of beef out their music and sound. Some great writing here. It sounded much in line with kind of the modern prog of the era, something akin to like what modern Spox would do. So fantastic, considering their debut record came out in 1974, and this came out 46 years later in 2020. So quite a span there. Incredible record that I think is well worth anyone's attention. If you've written off Kansas as a band that only made good records in the 70s, this is well worth your time. I think it's right in line with the classics of the 70s, just right up there, and a brilliant record in their modern era. I just love it so much. Number 3, and maybe partially what sparked a bit of this video, is John Anderson and his latest record, True, that just came out recently. When you consider Elias of Sunhillow came out in 76, this is 48 years later from Elias. And if you consider him from his start of his career with Yes, it's even a longer period of time. So considering John Anderson this far into his music career is coming out with an album this brilliant as True is just a truly remarkable feat. Of course, he's joined here with the Band Geeks, who really bring an energy and a vivaciousness to the music that I think complements John Anderson's vocals totally well. He's nearing 80 years old and just has the same style and sound that he always had, and it's really remarkable that he's still going and is able to create such a strong, solid album. To me, maybe the best of his solo career albums. I just think it's that good. Number 2, I wanted to highlight Steve Hackett and his record, The Circus and the Night Whale, that came out recently. This also is about 48 years from his, 49 years, in fact, because I believe this album came out earlier this year, from Voyage of the Acolyte, his first solo record from 1975, but even longer if you consider his start with Genesis as well in the makes as part of his career. And The Circus and the Night Whale, I thought, was an excellent release, a concept album of sorts that draws from a lot of elements of modern prog, but still has his quirky style. He brings some like world music vibes and influences from a lot of different places, but brings it all together into a really satisfying album. And seeing him play some selections from it live when I saw him on Cruise to the Edge was just the icing on the cake. Just a lot of energy, a lot of modern sounds that he's bringing to the equation. I think he's one of the best still going and doing this modern music. Really great stuff from Steve Hackett. My number 1, maybe surprisingly, I don't know, is The Crash of the Crown by Styx from 2021, which I just thought was a remarkable record from Styx. I would have never expected them to be so strong this far into their career. The original Styx album came out in 1972, so Crash of the Crown in 2021 was about 49 years later. The Mission that came out before this album is equally great as well, bringing a modern style and sound, bringing that edge to them, but still not sacrificing what the band was known for, multiple vocalists, a more melodic style and sound, this classic rock feel with some prog elements in the makes. It just sounds perfect to me and right in line with their classic 70s material. I love Crash of the Crown in particular. I thought it was one of the best records of the year it came out, and hopefully they continue forward and create more new music, and they can even extend their lead in this top 5 race, I suppose, of an album that came out way after their debut record. I thought it was interesting to delve into some of these classic artists and to showcase some really strong modern albums from these guys who are older but still going and are still releasing incredible material. I'm a big champion of modern progressive rock, as you all know. I'm excited to not only showcase new bands who are bringing new fresh elements to their sound, but also the classic artists that are still developing, still making great music, still trying to incorporate some modern aesthetics into their music to stay relevant. And I'm amazed by these classic prog musicians who are still going strong. And I'm sure you guys in the comments will bring out a whole host of other albums that I didn't mention here on my list. I'm sure there's a ton of them that I just didn't get to or didn't think about. Please let me know in the comments. I think this is a fun topic. Hopefully you guys agreed, and hopefully you guys will catch another episode in the future. Thank you guys for joining me. Bye, everybody.